Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the good, bad, and ugly of our everyday customer experiences. I'm Brendan Polk, Director of Marketing. With me, as always, is Mike Doloff, our Chief Revenue Officer. If you haven't been keeping up in this series, we're sharing our personal experiences as customers and what we can learn from it. Our past few episodes, we've covered bad and ugly examples. So today, I think it's time for a good experience to share about Mike's bank. So I'll let Mike tell you about that.
Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, glad to be talking about it. I think Brendan's probably tired of hearing from me how much I enjoy my bank. Obviously, banking, finance is an important part of everyone's life. Um, but what I really love, and I'm going to tell you a very quick story around banking, and then we'll jump into what I really like about the customer experience. And I think the main thing that I really like is it's consistent, good customer experience. And we'll show, and I'll give you my main example in just a second here of where I typically have that experience with banking. And I think it's different, but it's also really reflective of kind of the modern era we're in of how most of my banking this bank, for example, doesn't have brick and mortar locations. And 95+% of my interaction with it and my great customer experiences are with chatbots or real time chat. It's very infrequently sort of a phone call. It's 0% of the time in person, a small percentage of time on the phone, and most of my interaction is through their mobile app or web browser, which I think is, and for me, it works perfectly, and I love it. And so I'm always bragging to Brendan about how much I really enjoy the company that I work with for banking. So with that in mind, I'm going to pop up a slide here for a couple visuals and talk about what makes this banking experience such a good customer experience. And right out of the gate, we've got a couple of graphics here that I want you to see. The first one is I'm traveling, as you can tell from my beautiful environment for work. And as I pulled up the mobile app as I was traveling, I get a notification at the top the first time I authenticate and log in. And it shows a little Apple map. It's integrated with Apple Maps. And it says, hey, do you want to turn on travel alert so you don't have any issues using your card? Because it knows I'm not in the same area what I'm typically in. So what I love about that, and I think the first point that highlights for me around a good customer experience is that proactivity. And in this case, it's saying, "Hey, it looks like you're traveling. Do you want to put a travel notice?" So what that does for me is I didn't even think of it. Right, I travel for work all the time. I didn't even think about that. But if I wanted to, now that I'm logged in, I press a button and it took care of that for me if I want to. And if I don't, I just ignore it. But it surfaced that up to me proactively. We always talk about proactivity, how that's a key piece. Here's what's beautiful about that. It's a better experience for me because it's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks for reminding me I need to do that. But it also is good for the bank because they're not going to get a call from me when I'm standing at a merchant saying, hey, my card is frozen. Something's wrong with it. So it deflects the need for me to have kind of an urgent, which means costly customer interaction with them. So very smart. I love that. The next one here is let's talk for a minute about the multiple communication channels. So you can see in this other picture that it's got the ability for me to, I'm using basically their FAQ, which is a chatbot, which also has the ability to transition to a phone call, transition into a real-time chat, or if I'm just searching for stuff, as you can see, I was just searching for, hey, how do I change my ATM limit? It's using that chatbot, that logic to sort of dip in and pull up an answer for me. All of those things are great, and those are different channels that it's offering me. We've talked about bad experiences or ugly experiences in the past and how those lots of times organizations are burying the ability to reach them or burying that information under layers and layers. Make it open and easy. My bank makes it open and easy for me to find a channel that I'm comfortable with and use it to engage them. They certainly make it very easy for me on the digital channels, which is fantastic because I prefer it. And guess what? It's easier and less cost for them too. So my customer experience goes up and their cost on those interactions goes down. That's a great thing. So the multiple communication channels always key. There's some things that I need to call them for. Maybe it's urgent. Maybe it's a question around to do with a transaction I don't normally do, and I'm not comfortable with the answers I'm getting. No problem. Easily can turn that into a conversation. And guess what? They have data and they know who I am. They know where I'm at. Maybe where I'm hung up. So that experience is even seamless of going from looking at an FAQ to calling somebody. Really key. And then the last point here, I think is really an important one. And it's sort of the overarching of why I love the customer experience, this particular one while I'm traveling, but then broadly using this bank. It's because they've done a great job of understanding when do you use your agents, the people in your organization for your customer experience? When do you use people and technology? And when do you just use technology? And finding those, that's really to me sort of the overarching part that this bank really knocks it out of the park on. They're constantly innovating, constantly looking at that. And I think there's oftentimes all this fear of, chatbots and, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is IVR is going to put the call centers out of business and stuff. It's really not that. These are additional channels that make sense in certain scenarios. You have people for certain things, you have people and technology for other things, and you can use technology for other customer engagement, customer interactions. Find the right balance of that for what your customers are trying to do, and you'll have a great experience. And you'll have customers like me who are happy to refer people to the bank I use, talk about it, evangelize it, which is what every company wants, is customers that are happy and that are their best sort of marketing and sales efforts, talking about it with their friends, sharing that. And I do that for the bank that I use. And these are some of the reasons that specifically they make that good, consistent customer experience. As always, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you guys commenting, sharing your stories. Love to highlight those, dive into what makes these experiences that you live every day good, bad, and ugly. Have a great day.